obviously your majority projects are in tribal areas. So do you ever experienced talking to them on the personal level?
Yes, when I first got here, and then periodically since then, we've met with community leaders, and today there were, for instance, a number of women here for lunch who were from the tribal areas, and I could get a sort of first-hand perspective, but over time we have met with those. And of course many of these tribal leaders visit Islamabad frequently, and are politicians, and are active in the life in the capital too. And I try and get around to other parts of the country. We have identified, it's not just the tribal areas or in WFP, but there's certainly districts that we would call that have very high degrees of poverty, for instance, in Punjab and Sindh and Baluchistan, and we want to assist in those districts, constituencies, as you call them here, as well.
So do you have any projects to alleviate poverty?
Yes, we have a number of them: job creation, health projects, vocational training. We're designing projects now that, for instance, would promote agriculture, for instance, dairy development. We have projects up here that promote marble, which is a huge potential export industry for Pakistan. We have projects that develop gemstones, which sell for a lot in Europe and the United States, and you all have enormous potential in the gemstone market, so we're trying to teach people. So we have a number of projects that, yes, not only focus on women and children, but focus on raising incomes across the board.
Madam Ambassador, as you said that Pashtuns are enlightened and they're supporting in your projects. So here in Pakistan there is an opinion in people that U.S. intend to eliminate Pashtuns race.
Yes, you know, I've heard that, and I found it utterly astonishing, because nothing could be further from the truth. We realize that the Pashtuns are people that, by international standards, again, need the assistance of the international community. And many of your leaders, as well as my leaders, talk a lot about eliminating the root causes of terrorism. And that's what I think we have to work together to do in the tribal region. Because obviously terrorism, when a young man can't find a job or can't afford to get married or has a very limited education, obviously he's much more likely to be attracted to frankly an ugly ideology. So the idea is to help these young men, and they're mostly young men. I know we've been talking a lot in this interview about women and children, but most of what we're talking about now is young men, to give them some hope for the future, give them some education, give them the possibility to live with dignity. But nothing could be further from the truth when people make this claim that the United States has some animosity or wishes to eliminate the people that live in the tribal areas. We want to help them as much as we possibly can.
So how do you resolve this conflict among the people?
Well, there are many ways to resolve it, and we've had a great deal of experience of that internationally. I met the other night with a man I've known for years who's going to head the United Nations effort here. And there are many ways of resolving conflict. First, I think there are always people in any conflict, the leaders, that cannot be reconciled and that cannot be brought into the system, as we would say. And generally they have to be eliminated or arrested, but otherwise taken out of the scene. Then there's the possibility of reintegration, as we call it, given training or other opportunities that the people who are left. So there are a number of things. It has to be a political process, too. We've seen this all over the world, in Latin America and Africa. But you can, in fact, you need force, you need dialogue, you need development, you need all these elements to end a conflict. And again, there are many people in the international who have lots of experience with this.
So, from your experience, can you suggest some of the ways that how we prevent conflict?
How to prevent conflict? Yes, of course. There are, again, a number of ways, and your government talks a lot about dialogue. And again, I want to make clear that the United States would never argue, because it would be crazy to do so, that force is the answer. Clearly, force is not the answer. You may need force in certain situations, But obviously, as my own generals say, you can't kill your way out of these situations. These people have to be provided with opportunities, brought back into the system. They have to be persuaded that violence is not the answer. And most people are easily persuaded because most people do not want to be surrounded by violence. Most people are forced into it for reasons beyond their control. And I've worked in a number of post-conflict countries over the years, and it's actually easier than you would think to bring people back in the system. It takes a long time, but there are quite well analyzed and effective ways to do so.
Madam Ambassador, can you comment on cultural harmony in Pakistan?
Cultural harmony in Pakistan. Pakistan is not unlike the United States in that it's a very diverse country, and by many standards, a very tolerant country. So the United States is an enormously diverse country, religiously, geographically, ethnically, and Pakistan is much that way, but I think it leads to a much more vibrant civic life, certainly a more interesting place to live.
Do you expect that we get rid of terrorism?
Yes, of course I think that, but it'll take a long time. I think certainly after 9/11, Americans, the terrorist threat was more widespread, at least to my own country and to Western countries, than Americans expected, and perhaps broader. We've certainly not been the only country that's suffered from terrorism. Many countries, including Pakistan. But I do think through a combination of mechanisms and methods, a combination of force, a combination of dialogue, a combination of assistance programs, that you can work your way through these problems. It might take, in some countries I've lived, it's taken 10 years. In other countries I've lived, it's taken quite a short time, 4 or 5 years, with a combination of techniques. So I do think it's possible. I've seen that it's possible elsewhere, so I'm very optimistic that it's possible here as well.
I'm very amazed that in 5 years they've finished the terrorism. So what kind of methods they've used to eliminate terrorism?
Well, again, a combination of force, and in some places, the terrorists or insurgents or militants or whatever you choose to call them, once they see that the tide is going against them, they simply give up their arms and go home. And you don't have to use extraordinary measures to confront them. There are a variety of means. I think it takes strong government action, and I think it takes strong public support. Where I've seen it work particularly well, the public was very anxious. The citizens of that country were very anxious to get rid of the terrorists. So they were very receptive to policies that would do that. But yes, I think it's certainly not a problem that you're going to see forever.
Madam Ambassador, my last question to you. How do you see the future of Pakistan?
Well, as I mentioned, I see a number of positive things underway here. Pakistan, unfortunately, like the rest of us, was hit by the global economic crisis, the rise in food prices, the rise in oil prices. So I think your current difficulties have certainly been aggravated by the economic situation, but that seems to be stabilizing. Lower oil prices have certainly been a boon. I think the government's got some of the right economic policies in effect. The trick will be to get investment back here. You have many talented and frankly prosperous overseas Pakistanis. To get them to invest in Pakistan, to get foreign investors back, to generate jobs. All this will take time, but I see it as entirely possible. You have a young and very productive population. You have what we economists call very good demographics. So I think foreign investors will come back here as soon as the security situation stabilizes, and that will be the key, job creation and investment.
We believe that relation between Pakistan and U.S. will grow more in the coming days.
Yes, I'm convinced of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.